Gail Saunders, aka Eagle Sessions, here with Football Kelly. We are talking the path to 53, the running back preview for the 2018 season. How you doing today, Kelly?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Doing great. Excited, man. I'm just it's crazy that we are Super Bowl champs, and a big reason for the Eagles getting to the Super Bowl was an eclectic group from last season. The running back crew was a mosh pit of different kind of running styles. You had LeGarrette Blunt with the power game. You had Clement, the undrafted free agent. You know, become like a hero for the squad. You had Sproles go down to injury. The Eagles had to do something, and they brought Jay Ajayi in with the trade of a draft pick, and
hmm
together the group was pretty phenomenal. Moving forward, thinking about the 2018 season, we lose LeGarrette Blunt. LeGarrette Blunt, people don't realize that he almost reached 1,000 yards last season. I mean, he had
Yeah.
766 yards rushing. So you're going to have to look for guys to, bring that kind of production. I mean, before we move forward, how do you feel about the running back crew from last year and what they did?
I think you're exactly right with your take on LeGarrette Blunt. He's going to be somebody that's sorely missed in that backfield, veteran presence for this team. So you do have to try to think of ways to get his production from other players on the team, and that's something that the team I think is heavily trying to focus on this offseason, bringing in the undrafted free agent Josh Adams and Matt Jones, who was a former Colt and Redskin. So those are two guys that you hope may have the potential to play that role in this backfield. But this is a running back by committee offense from Peterson's point of view. So many different ways to attack defenses, keep them honest, and with the guys coming back, I think we are going to be in really good shape.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that people don't realize that Doug Peterson did, like a lot of people will say, yeah, you have this three-headed monster who, it kind of makes us predictable in the sense of like who we use and which situation we're in. And I think if you look back at some of the games, Doug Peterson actually went away from, the high percentage of like if Blunt's in, you're going to do it on short down yardage.
Right.
You're gonna go for it. He actually like threw to LeGarrette Blunt for a touchdown. I mean, he had like
hmm
Kenyon Barner in for a goal line touchdown. Like, so he kind of uses that to his advantage.
Yep.
But thinking about our number one running back heading into the 2018 season, we have Jay Ajayi. What's your thoughts on Jay Ajayi?
I think that you look at his production in 2016 when he really broke out with the Miami Dolphins, and then you see how he struggled in the first part of last season. He comes to the Eagles and he's averaging around 6 yards a carry with the Eagles and that offensive line. So he was very productive for the Eagles when he got his chances to play. And you're also seeing him being part of a committee versus the workhorse that he might have normally been in any other offense. I think that suits him. I think that Jay Ajayi, with his knee concerns, all of his injuries, you do want to weigh and be cautious with him. But overall, I think that he really will be the lead back for the Eagles next
Mm-hmm.
season. I think he'll take over a decent portion of what LeGarrette Blunt was for this offense. And somebody else may come in and play a minor role. But him and Clement will be a 1-2 punch that I think will be hard for defenses to handle.
Yeah, I mean, Ajayi put up 408 yards rushing, two touchdowns. Did have the two fumbles. Did add
Mm-hmm.
some. People were like, "Oh, can he work out in the passing game?" 10 receptions for 91 yards. But I
Mm-hmm.
think Jay Ajayi gives you that slashing power type back. He's not the burner. We've seen him get caught behind a couple times.
Yep.
What Seattle game and the Cowboys game, and then you mentioned Corey Clement. A funny thing about Clement that him getting run down last season in the Super Bowl. And now if Clement didn't, as much as we were like, oh, we need a burner, but if Clement didn't get tackled in the Super Bowl, we would have never saw the Philly special.
Special.
So that was kind of cool. But Corey Clement, what are your feelings on Corey?
He was the star of the playoffs for me. I still can't get over that open field breaking the tackle on Anthony Barr in that NFC Championship game. The ability to catch the ball, I think, is huge. He's definitely going to be a big role in our receiving game from the backfield. The catch he made in that Redskins game, Monday Night Football, was pretty phenomenal. It's really mind-boggling that he made that catch. And then you see how great he was in the Super Bowl. He made that touchdown against 3 defenders from the Patriots, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a beautiful throw by Foles for sure. But for Clement to make that play in the biggest stage as an undrafted rookie, beautiful stuff. Also was part of the Philly special, so definitely creates that question mark for defenders. How are they going to use this guy? Which I think will be a really strong part of how productive he can be next year.
I think Corey Clement really changed his game a little bit of his mindset. I know he had his 40 time wasn't the greatest at the combine. I think he had some off-field team issues. Some were questioning his his mental state in the locker room kind of setting.
Right.
And he kind of alluded to him, kind of growing up and kind of taking charge of his career. And I think.
And one thing I'll say about Clement, going to your point, is that he's proven as an undrafted rookie that you have to be hungry, you have to work for it to get that roster spot. Going and working on special teams and focusing on that to, make the 53. I remember getting into arguments with people last year about whether we were going to hold 5 running backs. I was like, well, they're not going to cut Pumphrey, so you're going to cut Clement, who showed way more and proved that he, was working for it more than most of the guys who were younger on this roster. Give him a lot of respect for, focusing on, making this team and playing. You see guys like Smallwood kind of vanish because they're not taking advantage of the great opportunity they have, and that's not what's happening with Corey Clement.
Yeah, I mean, Corey Clement, he had 321 yards rushing last year, 6 touchdowns. He had that 3-touchdown game against the Broncos, which was pretty amazing. Another key factor, 0 fumbles on the season. That's huge. Added in 10 receptions for 123 yards through the air. But yeah, I mean, Corey Clement, a local guy who, actually just spoke at Rowan University to the students. I mean, this guy's like a local hero right now, and he deserves everything that's coming his way. And a guy who's a little bit forgotten at the end of the season after he got injured. A guy dear to my heart, Darren Sproles.
Yes.
How are we feeling about Darren Sproles going into the 2018 season?
I have 3 locks at the running back position to make the 53, and it's Ajayi, Clement, and Darren Sproles. It's really hard to deny that Sproles is somebody that Peterson wants to utilize in this offense. We heard the story about how right after he was signed by the Eagles, after the draft was concluded, that Peterson was going to Roseman every single day in the offseason asking if we had re-signed Darren Sproles yet. Speaks to the veteran presence that he has in that locker room, but also to the hard work that he puts in as a veteran player. You saw during the off season and some of the season as he was rehabbing, This guy is running
Yeah.
like 3 months after ACL surgery. He broke his wrist and tore his ACL on the same play, week 3 against the Giants. And he's not even a human being. Like, I don't know how he bounces back that quick. But if any team wants to have the last career year of Darren Sproles, I want it to be the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, being that he's one of my favorite players in the NFL, and that he's on my squad.
Right.
I mean, he's like, some people like, he's an ultimate weapon in the passing game, but he's also an ultimate weapon in the locker room. He is a guy that, Kenyon Barner talked about what Darren Sproles meant to his career. He kind of like mentored him, but Sproles, mentoring younger guys, also his work ethic in the locker room is pretty awesome. But speaking of the passing game, he did in 2016 had 438 yards rushing, and had 52 receptions. Now you look at combined last season, Clement had 10, Ajayi had 10, and Blount had 8. So I think Darren Sproles having that kind of pick your poison in your back pocket for Doug Peterson, that's a great thing to have. So I think Darren Sproles is pretty amazing.
I think he was the one thing that was missing for sure, that Peterson wanted to have from Pumphrey, but obviously he's on IR too. So it's like he's the mentor to the rookie they picked last year, and they really need him in that locker room to help him get his game up to the level that they expect from Pumphrey. But also, Sproles is the punt returner. We don't have really any other option at this point on the roster that I think would be a decent choice. And Barnard just signed with the Panthers, so it's not like he's coming back.
Yeah, Sproles is a punt return guy. We had talked about it on the show recently, saying that maybe with the injury, maybe they're looking for another option at punt returner. But I think he's a one of a kind back there, and he's done damage over his career. Moving forward to another running back, I mean, it's like, we've had a lot of running backs this offseason. There's going to be a lot of competition, but we're going to start with, the back end of this running back group. There's going to be the bubble guys. A guy we signed from, he was a former Redskin. And he played with the Colts. Had a big game against our Eagles a couple years ago, like 131 yards rushing. How do you feel about that Matt Jones signing?
To your point, he's the only player to rush at least 130 yards against the Eagles over the last 3 years. That's a fact.
That is.
His fumbles are the biggest concern, the biggest red flag for Matt Jones. But he's 6'2", 239 pounds. He could be that LeGarrette Blount X factor. I think that Matt Jones was, for the Redskins, that workhorse back, but really he would be better suited in a committee, and that may help him, especially with Deuce. Hopefully he can address the fumbling issues that he's had going on. Just 5 carries for 14 yards last year during his Colts career, so not so hot. But he was a really strong running back in his rookie year with the Redskins, and I think if you want to take a chance on somebody like him, they gave him a 2-year deal, so if it ends up being like this kid can, produce for us, they have covered their butts and have him for 2 years, much like they did with Nick Foles last year. Signing him to 2 years instead of just a 1-year deal. So I think it was a smart signing. I think he'll provide a lot of competition. I think that most of the time this offseason we're going to be seeing him and the other players on the bubble playing more in the preseason games and giving Ajayi and Clement and Sproles lesser of a workload.
Right.
So you're really fighting for an opportunity to make this roster. And you just have to hope that a guy like him, who has shown that he can be productive in the NFL at this league level, that he'll prove himself and be able to produce for the Eagles next year.
Yeah, I think the Eagles were also looking at two other running backs. One being Terrence West, who
Right.
Matt Jones beat out, and there was another unnamed running back. I still want to know who that unnamed running back is, but
I'm curious.
But Matt Jones, I mean, I think it's a perfect opportunity for him to be in a situation where he's competing for his kind of like his career. Like this is a perfect opportunity with a stacked roster for him to just make a role on this team and show his worth. I think him last year getting pushed out, and I know he didn't want to really play special teams. He's played some special teams, but it was kind of like I think he was going from he was a starter as a rookie, and then Robert Kelly came in, and then Samaje Perine got drafted. So he got pushed out of the box. I think this is a great opportunity for him.
For sure.
Speaking of opportunities or squandered opportunities, following with Wendell Smallwood, another local native from Wilmington, Delaware. Thoughts on Smallwood?
I think that his time is up in Philly.
Ooh.
I think that he has the potential to make a roster. I just don't think he has the talent that we are expecting at this point on the Eagles roster. It's really going to be tough for a lot of these guys in all the positions to make the roster, but especially at the running back position when you're not going to take a ton of guys to be in that backfield. He was inactive for most of the season this year. He just is not able to stay healthy. He had some decent games for the Eagles. He definitely has that pass-catching ability, really good hands. But your best ability is availability, and unfortunately for him, I think that is going to be the bugaboo that the Eagles can't get over, and they move on to greener pastures.
Hey, you stole my best ability is availability. I had it ready to go. Yeah, I mean, Wendell Smallwood, I think at training camp, I remember it was like his second or his first run in training camp to the open practice, he got hurt. And I think that's his one thing is he's just been nicked up and hurt and can't seem to stay on the field. I think he's had multiple opportunities to try. And I think, with them drafting him, was the 4th round or the 5th round?
I think he was a 5th round pick.
5th round.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles.
2016.
Right? I was actually
going into his 3rd season now.
Yeah, I was actually at the Philadelphia Eagles stadium when they drafted him.
Oh.
On camera with the I think it was Seth Joyner making the pick. I don't know how I don't remember, but yeah, I mean, then last year the Eagles selecting Donnell Pumphrey in the 4th round. Your feelings about Mr. Pumphrey?
So the word around the street is that Pumphrey got into the league as a college to pro at 5'9" and 170 pounds. And this offseason, he's added 15 pounds of weight and hoping to be 190 by camp. So the thought process is that this guy's putting on weight to be at the league level where he can, protect himself a little bit more. I'm not convinced. I haven't seen enough of him at the league level to say otherwise, but I think they've proven that they have some faith in him by not drafting anyone at the running back position this year. But that largely could be that they kind of lucked out with Clement as an undrafted free agent. It's hard to say whether Pumphrey is going to be able to fill Sproles' role long term. You hope that eventually maybe he'd be able to be that gadget guy for Peterson's offense. I'm not fully convinced, but I don't think, as a person who's highly monitored the front office, that they're going to give up on him right away. I think he'll have a roster spot this year. It might not be a popular pick, but if he's going to play the role of Smallwood being inactive on the sideline, I mean, we still won the Super Bowl with him on the roster, so
yeah,
works out.
It's funny thinking of Donnell Pumphrey. He kind of reminds me of myself coming out of high school, going into college. He's black and Filipino. I'm black and Filipino. I was 5'8", 145 pounds going into college.
Tiny.
And I was a running back.
Okay.
But then they were like, they're like, you're a shifty guy. You can play in the slot. You can be a receiver. They moved me to receiver. I played slot. Gained by my senior year. I was 5'9", 195 pounds.
All right, so you were at the goal weight of Donnell Pumphrey for this season.
Yeah. So thinking of not all players learn how to add weight and muscle. Like some players gain muscle and they become slower. Like that's my little
you don't
worry.
Want to lose that explosiveness. That's the concern, but
yeah. I mean, and thinking about, I watched everything I could watch on Pumphrey, like before he was even drafted. After he got drafted, I watched almost every game of Pumphrey. Mm-hmm. What I saw of him in training camp was like a completely, total different guy than I saw in his college games.
And to be fair, he seemed like he was dogged by injuries last year in training camp, and then he ended up tearing his hamstring, which I don't know if was legitimate or not, but that's a whole different story. He just had injuries that potentially could have made him look worse than maybe he was. Yeah, he was not very good in preseason last year.
Yeah, and to me it looked like he tried to play through injury, and it looked like he didn't recover. So it looked like his explosiveness, his stop on the dime ability, I did not see. He kind of looked like he either was thinking too much or trying to do too much, or it just didn't. And then they tried him on special teams. Obviously, he's got to showcase some ability on special teams.
Absolutely.
At the back end of the roster, you got to have some kind of ability to get on this roster this year. Now moving forward, another guy who's nipping on the buds of that LeGarrette Blount role, Josh Adams. A lot of people very high on Josh Adams. How do you feel about Josh?
I like Josh. We just found out this week that he has a stress fracture in his foot, so he might not even play or practice much, which might hurt his ability to make the 53 in camp. He might be starting to play around preseason time, recovering from that. He seems to think that he'll play sooner than that, so we'll see what happens there. He seems like he could potentially be in a fight with Matt Jones for that roster spot to fill the LeGarrette Blount punch of this offense. They're both bruisers. They're both guys who can get the short yardage, but Adams has proven, even with his injury history, that he can be a home run hitter. He can get those long touchdown yard plays in the bag, and he had a lot of success at Notre Dame. I think that the reason he went undrafted is because of the injury concerns that he has. So there's the risk there. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but I firmly believe that either he or Jones will make the roster. That's how I'm looking at it. They are fighting one another to play the part of the LeGarrette Blount role in this committee.
Yeah. So I mean,
whoever proves that more in preseason, that's who I'm convinced will have a good role in this offense.
Yeah, and Adams is another local guy like Clement. He's from Warrington, PA. I think he's the guy that was on the Heisman watch. Put up around 1,400 yards plus. Ran behind a stacked offensive line. I mean, his two linemen, McGlinchey and Quentin Nelson, got drafted top 10. So you're thinking about what kind of holes were
Really good line.
open
Really
for
good
him.
line.
But the holes that he did see, he got through them. Teams were worried about, can he create on his own, or does he need a line to block it from him? And then you think about, we do have a solid line ourselves. So if you can create...
The knock on Adams is that he doesn't get the speed to get through defenders. He needs, the line to kind of create that for him, to build his momentum.
Yeah.
But, him working with Deuce and I think our offensive line, as you're saying, he might have the potential to prove that he can do this on his own.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, it's going to be... I haven't been this excited to watch a running back competition in a while. Like, I'm really... Like, I'm just a dork like that in the sense where I'm like, fourth quarter, yeah, I get to see the fifth and sixth stringers. Like, that's where I'm at. But that's how, that's how you create a great roster. Like,
I think that's going to be true for all the positions because this is just stacked, and the depth on this roster is so deep that, there's going to be guys cut from this roster, whether it's running back or otherwise, that are going to make active rosters for other NFL teams. People are going to be picking up our guys to play for them, just because there's so much competition across the board.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. We got a competitive group. Sproles is back. We can pray about Ajayi's knees. We have the unsung hero and Corey Clement coming back. And then we have competition.
It's brawl. Yeah. I think that it'll be a really exciting thing to watch the younger guys fight. Matt Jones is only 25. He's had 3 years in the league. So maybe he has an edge on some of the other guys to make it. And my thought process is that the Eagles will keep, those top 3 guys and then add, Donnell Pumphrey just as, they're developing him, just to ensure that they don't lose him to another roster. And I think that Matt Jones might just be the one who is the under-the-radar guy that ends up on the roster, and we take 5 running backs like we did last year onto the 53.
Wow. Okay. Matt Jones, the chosen one.
Yeah.
So I heard that you have started a YouTube channel, which is kind of good.
I have.
Where can the viewers find you on YouTube?
I basically don't even know what my official link is, but if you search Football Kelly, it should come up for you, or you can go to my Twitter page and find it from @football_Kelly. It's in my pinned tweet. So just talking Eagles football and, getting ready for a fun off season.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're excited. But, I mean, if you want to look for me on Twitter, I'm at Eagle Sessions. And if you want want more content, you can find us on 4th and John on YouTube. And the viewers out there, we've given some hot takes about the running back position. In the comments below, let us know what you think about the running backs, who you're starting, where your guys are on the depth chart. We'd like to know here at 4th and John. But that's all from me and Kelly, and we'll see you guys very soon.
Bye, Eagles fly.